Hi, Kristian.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. Now, before we get into the album, and it kind of goes into it a little bit, but you moved to North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or you spent some time there.
Yes.
And obviously you lived in New York. What is your connection with the United States? Has it always been a fascination, and was it purely musical, or was there something else as well?
I mean, there's been a fascination since being a kid, and there's even a song on the album called Major League that's about it.
Right.
But I mean, yes, I've been touring there since 2008, so of course it's just, most of my friends are musicians over there.
Yeah, and Major League is the reason why I asked, because there's a line in there, Carolina ran in my heart. So,
yeah.
So what did you find there?
Well, a lot of Carolina wrens. It's a little tiny bird.
Okay.
It's very, it's not shy, that little bird. It's just around, so maybe I could relate. No, I have a lot of friends who live in North Carolina, and I moved back from, I was living in New York, and then the pandemic hit. I stayed there for 10 weeks, and then I had to go home, or fly to Sweden, and be there for my parents, and they're old, and was locked out of the country.
Sure.
America, so I couldn't go back, so I got rid of my apartment in New York and decided to just live in Sweden. I've had a little farm there since 12 years or something, so decided to stay there. And then, fast forward, pandemic, isolation, not being inspired, a lot of things. And then when it finally opened up again so I could go back, I just went to North Carolina because a lot of my musician friends live there, and so I hung out there for 6 months and wrote songs and recorded an album.
This might sound weird, but I have a degree in American studies. That's why I'm kind of interested in this area of conversation. So, so is there something about the mentality of America that you like, or something about the... Because I know what we are like in Europe and in America, they're a little bit more idealistic, I would say. So is there something...
In idealistic in what way?
Like opportunity, like you can be... How would you put it? More in the Netherlands and Europe, it's more like, okay, just don't stick your head out of the crowd.
No, we have
America,
we have a lot. And that's, it's a big part of like why, moving to New York. New York, I feel, is a different beast than the rest of America. It's its own country in its own, and I love New York. But yeah, I grew up on the countryside in Sweden, and like in a working class mentality, you're not supposed to be better than anyone else, and like you can't be really proud of what you do,
right? Because
that's bragging. And me, I wanted to express myself through music and kind of be. It's weird. I'm an extrovert. I feel like a trapeze artist, but I'm playing guitar and running around on stage, and I had a lot of years where whenever I came, because I toured all over the world, but I came back to Sweden and toured there, and I felt almost I had to excuse myself, I know I'm not.
Right.
So for me, that was just really, it was a big part of me growing up and growing into the person I am, to go to New York and just didn't have to have that over me. And also New York, there's you can just disappear in New York. I could just, study people and play music, and it was an important part of my life, and yeah.
And there's a link to the album, I suppose, even more so than just Major League, in the sense that it talks about, there is some talk about the idea of success or achievement, or what constitutes a good life, I suppose. So
yeah.
When are you very ambitious? Let's start with that.
Well, ambitious in what sense?
Well, that's the question, right? Because you can fill it in so many things. You can fill it in creatively, you can fill it in financially, you can fill it in just personal development, any skill.
Yeah, but I think this album is actually it's about finding peace in not, like, let's say this, like the song Henry Street, the title track.
Right.
It's about the sadness I see in a lot of people, and especially living in New York, and the thing where, without becoming overly political, but, where we've all grown up in this, where capitalism has taught us that we're the most important, you're the most important person on this planet, and you need to stand out. I mean, no, it sounds, I'm sitting here, and I get attention and all that. It sounds weird coming from me, but I can't get out of this where I am, so I have to, is what I'm talking about, that we're all supposed to be this, like, the most important person, and then we realize we're not. Like, then we, as you said, it's hard. And then I see a lot of struggle in people, especially in America, where you have to build your own brand, like, just as a person, not as you. And then the anxiety and the sadness just comes from that, and and I am doing this, but I had many realizations during the pandemic that, when I couldn't play music, that's literally true. I couldn't play music because I couldn't play live, and I couldn't write songs. They were all just like the darkest crap ever. It was just because being reminded about my own mortality all the time, and pandemic, and there's wars, and there's injustices, and then all that just got to me, and I couldn't daydream anymore, like what I've been doing my whole life. I'm being like naive optimist, or just like I can do this, and I can to be playful in life. That went away, and then I just had this like kind of sad, cynical bullshit of songs. I just like I don't want to do this, so I just put it away. I just went into gardening. I didn't play music, and I also couldn't play shows. What I've been doing most of my adult life, and it's what I do. I realized that's what I do, and when I could start doing it again, I did it with a whole new level of gratitude for it, that I get to do this. And I realized then, and like it opened up, and I go to America and I started to write songs, and I realized I'm going to do this my whole life. I'm whatever. And then I felt like, for the first time, I felt free, that I don't really care how many people if people like this album or not, because I'm going to do another one anyway. So if 5 people listen to it, or many people listen to it, it doesn't really matter. And that was the freedom. And I don't care about being forgotten and like that. It's just like it sounds like mindfulness bullshit, but it's true. Like, just live in the now and be grateful for what I have around me, and like I was extremely grateful for my friends and all that all of a sudden I didn't have in my life, because I've known this my whole life, but during the pandemic it's clear I'm not a genius. I don't carry genius things just in my soul being, like walking around I probably have 4 thoughts in my head. They're just bouncing around. It's with other people, interacting with the world, with strangers, with friends and lovers. That's where inspirations to write songs come from.
Right.
I definitely need that. And then, realizing to strive for that. My ambition to try to be a good friend, try to, take advantage of the little time we have,
No, but I find it interesting, and especially from somebody in your position, because you've tasted both. You've been that person kind of on a billboard or whatever, and then in the spotlight. But then there's also, obviously, you are Christian, not just the tallest man on earth. And when all that was taken away, were there certain things that you realized, like, okay, this is essential for me to live, or this is who am I without kind of the tallest
of course,
man
identity crisis and all that. But I think, playing music to people, or being in a room like that live experience of playing, and I'm not just saying playing songs to people, like because I feel I'm playing songs with people when I'm at a show, like that energy, that especially in a how the world is right now, I guess I'm chasing the little moments of wonder, like we have as kids, and that I've been able to keep, I think, through music, and like those, like, and listen to other people's music, and going to shows myself. That you lose track of, you forget about like place and time.
Sure.
Like you're just like I have out in nature, where just like you feel that sense of wonder. And that's what I realized, like I've had my whole adult life, and that's a shortcut. Like when I've had the shows, I've been in that sense of wonder, because the one sense of wonder to me is not like I'm hearing my own songs, this is great. It's just like the sense of wonder is like, oh my God, we're all these people together in this room, and we're gathering around music, and like that's pretty damn weird. Like the humans do that because like it's easy to look at the like, human beings and society, and we do so many bad things, and we do so many selfish things, and then but we do like music and art, and it's something that is I think less and less seen as
Sure.
the intelligent part of us human beings, because we want things that we can measure and data and all of that. But I think maybe we haven't figured out where our strengths are, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in a job with abstract thinking is
Sure.
allowed, but I am sorry if I'm ranting pretentiously here, but it's that I've been missing in my life, that sense of wonder, and I've been getting that for free through live shows.
No, I do think you're right. I think in terms of the type of society that we live in, a certain type of value is respected more than others, like industriousness and all that kind of stuff, and just working hard and making a lot of money. Those are valued quite high, whereas just creative expression is perhaps sometimes less valued. But with that in mind, then, how do you start? Because was the emphasis then to write collectively, or to at least create collectively? Because if we look at your earlier work, a lot of that is quite solitary, I suppose. So what was the emphasis now? Okay, no, I realized this is a communal thing, and that's why I'm going to America. I'm going to visit these friends to play with.
Yes, and it's a new set of like confident feelings in me, and how to explain that? Like I've done so much DIY stuff over the years, but I think most of it is not because I think that I can that I need to have control over things. It's just it's like lack of confidence in like songs and my own musicianship, and it's something that it's almost soon taken 39 years to step out of, but it's this thing. So I've had songs, and I have a lot of talented musician friends that have told me like, you're great, but I haven't but I haven't really allowed myself to believe in them. And then so a lot of times like I shouldn't book that like really good studio because like my stuff is not good enough, or like I shouldn't invite other people that maybe it's not good enough, so I'll just do it myself. I can do that with a lot of things. I mean, a lot of DIY like around the house and in the garden, like I'll figure it out myself, because it's just like, and that's not just it's not that I think that I'm better doing myself. It's just like it's easier for me, then I just don't have to expose my my work to other people, which is it's bad. Like it's bad. You have to take the leap. And now after.
So one thing in between, because I find this fascinating. What then? Because this is I think a mentality that a lot of musicians have. But what is it then that brings you to write songs, be vulnerable, and show it to people? Because that's a very counterintuitive thing then, in a way. Yeah,
but it feels good every time having done so. So, and I mean, your psychologist, it's a complex thing, but
Sure.
There's always a drive in me, some parts of me that just wants to be safe and like not push it, like many times I'm writing songs and I sit there by the piano, I'm writing something like, oh, this is good, this is good, I'm like, let's do this, and then I catch myself like, oh my God, you're just writing that other song you had that someone said was good, so you're trying to do that again, and then inspiration just goes away. So now I have this measurement, like, or I have this indication in my body when I'm on the right track, because it's when I write a song and I feel a little ashamed. When I feel it's like, oh, this is kind of corny, and this is weird, but I like it so much. And then when I get that feeling of it being like I'm a little ashamed, I know I'm on the right track, because I know I'm pushing myself.
Right.
I know that I'm pushing myself out of the comfort zone and not just repeating. And then I'm actually like showing a vulnerable side that the part of me does not want to show, because that's not safe. So, yeah.
Because initially I thought maybe it might have been difficult to let go then once you involve other people, but the way you talk about it, was it liberating in a way?
Yeah, it was very liberating, because I just like, life's too short, I'm going to trust these people. And just with the, when my daydream started, when I knew that I could travel. So I wrote every little heart, the single in my kitchen, just after knowing the fact that I could go back. So I just like came up with this weird riff, and just like it was just there. So of course I know most of these musicians that walk in the studio, and I love them, and I know their capabilities, of course, but I also know their sensibilities, and knew that a lot of them had gone through very hard times during the pandemic. So it was very, you could step into a room where we were all so happy and like joyous and playful, just like, and we got back to the why we started, like the feelings of why we started playing music, when you're just like, this is cool, like like, wow, we can make these sounds, but then also like be like supportive of each other through like this life has happened to all of us. And but there was like no, we recorded so many songs it was like 14 songs in 11 days, and everything was just working out like that. And there were so many surprises to me, what people added and came up with, because we also played most of it live.
Okay.
So we like rehearsed a little, and then like, oh, I'll do this, and so I was just in the middle of that playing myself and getting fed by that, like, wow, you're doing that, like, whoa. So, and I feel you can hear that throughout the album, even though it's touching on like anxiety and depression and hard things and thoughts about giving up and stuff like that. But then I think it succeeds in the fact, because you can hear that in the music and in the energy of it, that every single song, that even though it sounds depressing, it's about like, yes, that happened, that's life, and then we're coming back to like a hopefulness, and like a hopefulness in people and in humanity, and in love.
Yeah, and I think especially if you move from Henry Street, which is a slower piano kind of ballad thing, into In Your Garden Still, that's a very bright sounding song, so that you can feel that transformation. You mentioned the surprises that you might have had. Is there one thing you can share, or one song that you, as you said, you kind of felt ashamed about and you really like how it turned out?
Well, every little heart I didn't really understand myself. I was just like, this is strange. This goes from like F sharp pentatonic to F sharp major to F sharp minor. That's not supposed to like be this smooth, but it just worked smoothly. And then I had this little drum beat in my head, but I was not going to tell TJ, the drummer, whatever I heard. So he's like, what do you hear? And he started to play that beat, and it's like, and it's totally different from what I heard. And it just like put the song upside down and like made it three-dimensional, and just like, that was a big like, whoa, surprise moment to me. But then a song like Major League, just me playing the banjo like that, and like when I play the banjo, I don't get super like theoretical about music, because it's something weirdly about the banjo that's just like, you can just be in the stream of notes, and then not realizing the time signature, because then when when Nick was going to play the bass, and he was like, play the bass, and I was like, no, I don't think that's where the one is. And it's like, no, I think it's, and then we were just confused, and then we were like, okay, let's have dinner, and then like had dinner really fast, and I ran out into the studio and just like played it, and like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, it's in 7/8 time, but unless that bar is 8 8, whatever. It's just like, so I had to like also like dissect my own music at points, and just like, yeah, that was the time when we were just like, we couldn't figure it out. But then it's like, and I just told, oh yeah, sure, and then we just did it.
But is that part of, because I read something in I think it was a bio, but kind of you have a tendency, or at least had a tendency, to overthink things. So is that kind of the exercise then, to try not to do that, to try and just see what, and then don't think too technically, and just it sounds okay.
Yeah, I don't think I ever overthought theory, but overthought if it's good or not. Now it's just like, now I think, because I mean I spent some time there before the recordings, a couple of months, and I think I did like 20 demos, so there was just, we had a lot of stuff to work from.
What was the criteria for the songs to make it on the album?
There's no criteria. There was just like, it just came together as it was naturally, as when you can't explain why. Like after a while, I like, okay, just listening back to Bless You, like that's the first song, and then hearing Foothills, like that's the last song, and like hearing Henry Street, that needs to be like smack in the middle, needs to be followed by In the Garden Still. It just, and Nick Sanborn, the producer that I've known for a long time, we were very much in sync. You know, we heard what, and then there was just, there's too many songs. So there were, I have to kill some darlings. But it just felt, it just naturally kind of came together. I can't explain it. It's magic.
Fair enough. When it comes to the lyrics, then, can I assume that that's still a very personal thing? Or is that something you share with the group as well, where you talk about
No, I mean, it was one song, actually, Bless You, because I got a little stuck. So me and Amelia Meath from the band Sylvanesso and Mountain Men, we just bounced some idea. She kind of took me out of untied some knots for me, and it was beautiful. We were on a porch in North Carolina, and it was Carolina Wrens and, Cardinals and all that stuff, and it was just, and I just went into the studio. So, but no, the lyrics I write myself. Yeah.
What? Because you mentioned you need to live life. You need to experience life in order to get some inspiration, and you didn't want to write that very dark, depressing album about the situation we're in. So where did you kind of pull from in terms of what you wanted to say? And then I don't know how you see it. You're not the most literal writer, I suppose, that there is. So how do you kind of, once you have an idea that you want to express, how do you kind of formulate that in a way that you're comfortable with?
Well, I think it's not as easy to put as that, because if I'd known what I wanted to say fully and clearly, I wouldn't write songs. That's why I write songs, because the freedom of writing a song is that you can, because sometimes you have a lot of thoughts, it doesn't make sense and it's bouncing around, but there's a feeling of it, and you can put that into a song where it's like the song makes total sense to me, what it is about for me, but the only way I can explain this feeling is through a song or through another type of art, because that is allowed to be abstract and still not just like logically clear, like put like this, where I don't think we discuss often enough that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, that it's not a clear description of something you could, otherwise I would just write it down on a piece of paper, Here.
This is what I think.
Yeah, it's way easier than to record an album or learn an instrument.
But the fascinating thing then is people can find something in that, whether it's the same thing that you found in it or not, that is, I suppose, unimportant. But what did that make you realize? And did you ever, during your career, felt like a sense of responsibility in terms of what you wrote, or was it always like a pure expression?
Well,
maybe responsibility isn't the right word, but...
Yeah, well, I don't tell people to do bad things, hopefully. But I don't know. I've heard, like, many people, you know, tell their stories about what my songs have meant to them, and in the early days, it was really hard to grasp, and just like I would always like, no, it's not that good, really, like, but then, you know, you hear a lot of people with beautiful stories, but they could also have like, oh, I met my partner and we got married to this song. It's like, oh my God, that's a breakup song. Yeah. But no, I don't feel, maybe I don't feel responsibility, but I'm happy that people can find, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. It's beautiful that it's allowed to be like that, and it's how I've used, or like I've been helped by a lot of music in my life, you know, where you feel a connection to something, but I have no idea what, you know, who's behind me here? Tom Waits. I have no idea what we're talking about, but, you know, I felt I got, you know, answers through it.
Is there one song, or maybe that's too much, but is there one artist that you took solace from then during the pandemic, for instance?
That I took what?
Solace from, or took some comfort from listening to them?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm listen to so many different kinds of music, but I think when it was like a darkest point, I think I listen to a lot of classical music.
Okay.
These days, and I mean, it's a really dark soundtrack for times like that, but like I got to get back to a sense of wonder and spirit, like Arvo Pärt, the Estonian composer, I think he's Estonian. His pieces were just like, I was, you know, riding my little ATV four-wheeler with a horse fertilizer in the back and listening to that, and it was pretty, yeah, it was weird, but it was great, because then because listening to other pieces of music, that's how I could, you know, still get back into that, like, there's like to keep me going, to just keep me going. If there is because if I just been like on social media or reading news and stuff, that would just like, I would just gone crazy.
Final question then, the album's called Henry Street.
Yes.
Now I tried to Google it, and also in unison with Chapel Hill, there is a Henry Street in Chapel Hill in Australia, so I don't think that's what you meant. But where does the name come from?
It comes from that I used to live on Henry Street, Henry and President Street, a crossing in Brooklyn. Okay.
And why that street? Because obviously these songs weren't written there, or...
Yeah, but because it's the low point of the album I mean that in a strong, in a positive way, but because I mean, what I talked about, I couldn't write songs during the pandemic, but then when I could start write songs again, I could go back and sing about things that had happened during the pandemic, because that happens a lot in my life. Like if I'm in the middle of things, like hard things, and you know, I'm a white privileged man, so how hard can it be? But no, there's stuff that, you know, happens to everyone. But then I could, you know, if I stand in the middle of it, I don't write good stuff. But then, you know, usually when I feel a little more joyful in life, then I can easier, you know, get some perspective and think of these things. And, you know, it was to see New York just quiet. It was kind of like when you're in the woods and there's a storm coming, and all of a sudden it's just like all the birds go quiet. It's kind of like that in New York City. It's just like from living in a city where it's just like people out all the time, and traffic and like noise, and just like poof, like it was dystopian, just like empty streets, and it was just ambulances and stuff like that. And to see, you know, afraid and confused people, and that you know, so I sing about some New York stuff in that. So, and it felt like I should put that as that's the starting point of the album, because it was like also the literal starting point, because the song, for me making it, even though I didn't do good, like it's from the start of the pandemic to when it was recorded. Yeah.
Kristian, may I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Roman.
Thank you.